So welcome to the Node.js Node API team meeting for April 23rd, 2021. We'll follow our standard approach of looking at what is tagged for milestone 11 on the ABI stable node repo. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to make? I guess the only thing that comes to mind, we may have mentioned it in passing last time, but the team is doing a talk at OpenJS World. So we hope to see you at the conference and see you, hope you watch the talk on Node API. And I think registration is open, so I'd recommend and suggest anybody who's interested to go and register now. Otherwise, I will pull up and share the things on the labels, milestone. Let's go back. Okay, I'm sharing here, milestone 11. Okay, so the first thing is talk about submission for OpenJS World. So as we mentioned, that was accepted. And we've got Jim pasted in the OpenJS virtual speaker guide. I guess, Nicola, you were mentioning like maybe we should create a Google Doc that we could start putting the content in.
Yeah, I will do later.
Okay.
So yeah, I take care of to prepare what we already have, and then together we can update all the things.
Okay, that sounds good. And so maybe we can make a little bit of progress this week and then next week take a look at it because we do, yeah, it's like 3 weeks. So there's a little bit of time, but not a huge amount. Sounds good. Okay, the next one is the blog post about the transition to Node API. Let's pull that up. Okay, so I guess this is just, we each have a few sections to work on. So I think I've written up the background if people think that's okay. It looks like, Kevin, you still have a lot of the heavy lifting, right?
Right. So I did get clarification on the test folder, so I can fill that in, but I don't see what else we would, I'm not sure what else needs to be added.
I think it's more like converting it to like text.
Because what I did was I left that up there, that approach, so that we can compare that with what I put as sentences or whatever. So what's changing? References, documentation, blog posts, and similar will now refer to Node API. And so that's
right. Okay.
I did there, taking the one blurb from the approach above and just expanding it just a little with an example or so. So in my mind, I'm not sure how.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. So I see what you're saying. Like this, the bullet points are, you think, what we could include, which makes sense, I think.
Right. I just left that up there as so we can compare what I wrote to what we said before. And then we did get clarification on the test folder. I can add that up. Forgot about that one from last week.
So actually, so maybe Jim is already, I'm just going to put that back.
So, I mean, it's a small post.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not sure what else.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's like if we just delete this. Let's
Right.
see. And then if we just put in the, that's right.
A stable node.
Did I get that wrong? Oh, right. Yeah. Dope.
Yeah, stable node.
Okay. Yep.
Maybe we can okay.
I added this. I don't know if it is worthwhile.
Yeah, we can.
If you're linking to the issue, I guess it's
Instead of
easier.
EAPI, NAPI, right?
Right.
EAPI. I don't EI NAPI node API.
Well, I just copied this from the issue. So I
Okay.
guess if
Yeah.
you're linking to the issue, we don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
I think that was like the first sentence in the issue.
Okay, that's this one.
Yeah, we can leave the issue like reference on the post. So
Yeah.
if someone want to go deep on all the motivation, yeah, can read this.
And okay, I wasn't getting the N API,
Yeah.
and API. Yeah, okay. No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we should probably just. Right. Okay. Now I see that. That makes sense. Yep.
And I just took this as from an example PR that's in review. So
Yep.
this may become a new symbol, and the same with this setting.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. That's good. So that looks like, yeah, I think that looks good. Are we ready to ship it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the last one is to send it off to the foundation to ask them to publish it. I don't know, Nicola, if you want to do that, and you can CC me.
And yeah, can you give me the
Yep.
the email that yeah.
Yeah, let me
email address.
just thinking, yeah, it's good for you to get connected so you can do that. Let me find, where's the chat now? Okay. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second, find the chat, and I will find who I would send it to. If you just include me on CC, that way if there's any questions or anything, I can help answer them.
Yeah.
So Rachel's the marketing lead who would do that there at the foundation.
Okay. Okay, I send the email later, and if okay, I can for sure I insert you on CC. Maybe all the team. I can include all the team members.
Yeah,
If,
that's a good idea. So we can all see
okay.
the progress along the way. That's a good idea. Okay, so we can move on to the next thing. So stale issues. I don't see any new stale issues, so that's good. Tracking issues for things that are ported. I don't see anything there. Let's just move on. I haven't done anything in terms of the debug testing. Issues related by module owner. So this one I do want to, I see, saw, Kevin, that you had done some work on that intermittent issue that we've seen, right?
Yes. Okay. So two things. First, there's two PRs.
Okay.
This one here is when we left last week, Gabriel had mentioned you can try to use a mutex in order to synchronize between the two.
Instead of using time, right?
Instead of using time.
Okay.
So then I tried to do that. But then I'm realizing that not only is there, we would need to synchronize this inside the C++ thread, but there's also some time stuff being done in the JavaScript thread where it says like, make this thread, make the main JavaScript thread busy so that
right.
C++ thread can do stuff. And I think then I also have to do some synchronization between that then, and that's sort of where I've left off now. But then the other approach was simply just trying to tweak the time so that, I mean, it's not the best, but I think it may be better.
I guess, like in this case, does this fix the issue as far as you're concerned, like in terms of the timing?
So the PR, it failed the first time.
Right.
So it's not solved. It's not fixed.
I,
So I'm guessing it. What I want to do now is change, because the CI just failed with the seg fault. So I want to add some additional debugging so that instead of just doing the error fatal, maybe it also outputs to console, where we're using IOStream, what the actual error is, so that we can trace it a little better.
Yeah, now I did wonder, I saw that failure and I wondered if potentially we have multiple things going on, because this one, I restarted it and it, like the first failure, I guess maybe I shouldn't have because you can't see it now, but it didn't look quite the same as I would seen before. Like it was crashing after all the tests completed versus right after the TFSN.
I did see that.
Test.
I do recall that.
You did see it also fail right after or you saw that it was different?
I recall it saying all tests pass and then seg
right.
fault.
Because we've seen that, and then other times though I've seen it where it seems to like crashed right after the TSFN test. So
That is correct. Now, if you go back to the pull request, because I have a second PR,
okay,
which this first one here just fixes a bad export. As I was investigating the failure, the thread safe function export was actually the typed thread safe function.
okay.
And so, and now this CI failed with the failing after the thread safe test.
Right.
Whereas
Okay.
the previous
right.
PR failed after all of the tests.
Right.
So you may be right that it is a different failure that we saw.
I'd be tempted, like if you think the other one is a good change, like because removing dependency on timing is always a good thing for tests, right? So like if you think it's a good change, I'd be tempted to land it and we'll get more data from the CI runs at least, right? Like if they all switch to being the one at the end, maybe that's slightly different, right?
Right. What are your thoughts of modifying the test to output to IOStream with it if it fails, instead of, so also call the like error fatal, but then also output to IOStream, just for like so that we can see
right what the failure is,
right? Because it's odd that we're just getting a seg fault, right, and not the actual stack trace that we should get. But since it's done in different threads, I don't know. So
yeah, I think it's part of this. It's like during, my guess on that one is shutdown. So yeah, I mean, if we can, so you're saying like let's instrument the test itself, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
I guess I would be tempted to say let's land the one with the change you have. If I looked at it, I didn't see anything that stood out, and if you think it removes the timing and does the synchronization, I'd be tempted to land that. Then just to separate out instrumentation, like we could land another PR, which is like, okay, let's add some more instrumentation to the tests. And we might back that one out later on, right? As a separate, we could revert that separate PR.
Right. I think that would work.
Okay. So basically, it sounds like you would be this one, right? We can land this one.
Right.
And team. So, and I just wanted to talk to you about it, but I had looked at it. So I would say let's get that one landed. I can also, once that's landed, try and rerun under Valgrind and see you know, it may have been that the timing was just slower under Valgrind, right? And that's why we saw the other issue. So you may have fixed that, and we can see what goes on. And if you want to create another PR which adds some extra instrumentation, I think since we haven't been able to recreate it, you know, locally in tons of runs, let's instrument and get some stuff going on in the CI is really our only other choice.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, I'll try and get this landed later today, and we'll get at least a few runs over the weekend to show us some more data, and then we can go from there. Thanks for working on it and doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other issues in particular that people wanted to call out?
There's the second one that I'm working on, which is the swallow unthrowable exceptions.
Right.
Also,
I just
node
went to the
add-on
wrong
API.
one. Node.
Mm-hmm. And the third one.
Third one, this one, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm. So the place that I'm having an issue is with this define being able to differentiate the behavior in a local compilation unit. Because
right.
You had made the comment that should it be in the GIP file, or should it be somewhere else? So
Yeah.
I moved it into my compilation unit as a define.
Yep.
And it didn't take. And I think it's because when the method throw as JavaScript exception gets compiled by some other caller the first time, the compiler goes through and compiles it, and that setting, that compile option isn't set. So when it's compiled, it doesn't have that setting.
Yeah, like maybe, do you have let's look at the files here. So if we have like a test file, for example, so like here, would you have defined it right before this?
Mm-hmm. If you go to the previous commits,
Okay.
You can see, I think, not the last one, address
one?
review comments, the second to last.
This one, right, okay.
I put it right there.
Right.
And then it was a failure saying like the actual test case failed, which it shouldn't.
Right, yeah.
That's defined. And I just think it's because of how the compiler has previously compiled that symbol because somebody else used it. And now it doesn't need to be recompiled. So I'm not really sure the best way to do this here. It's either, and then
you
that would
should
also
definitely be able to, like, you should definitely be able to define, let's just see here. Like, you should be able to define something that's within scope of you know, a single file even. Sorry, where did these? I'm now in the wrong file, aren't I? No. Just review come. Okay, so right. So we've got this one. No, this one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other files in this. So test like error builds an add-on itself, right?
There's a different test that builds an add-on, yes, but I think that is called add-on.cc. Like I don't think error.cc builds another add-on.
Yeah, let me just.
But we can verify, right? So
yeah.
my thought is that when we compile the first compilation unit, which I think is like async worker or something, that uses throw as JavaScript exception, and then it would be compiled that symbol without that compiler flag being used.
Sorry, and this was under which subdirectory? I forget now. Files changed here. It's under, it was under, no, that's not the right one. Sorry. Right, okay, I have to go back a commit. Sorry, I'm just at this one. And it is test/error, okay.
Yeah, you have to go up a folder.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at, like we build them all into one add-on.
Right, it goes into the binding.node file or binding no accept file. And they're all linked. Like all of our those...
Right, we link them into one executable.
So then the only another option would be to create a different a different target, like Lucas did for his maybe compilation. Since that affected everything, he needed to create another target. That could be something that I do as well, but then that would increase the build time by a third.
Right, we don't need to run all the tests. It would be like we want to run one extra test in that particular. So because otherwise we're basically disabling it for all of, we're not testing. I guess, do we have a test that doesn't swallow it?
No, it would need to, that would have to be added.
Because it's almost like we want a test, one test, which we run both ways.
That would be optimal, yes.
And it should fail in one, it should have one behavior in one and one behavior, the other behavior in the other one. Because I could see that I sort of getting where you're at now. If we're building it all into one executable, then other places we've done the import, it may have already,
been compiled.
Yeah. Because we are using code within code within code, kind of.
Right. So we can try doing another target. We can make it such that the default target that we use does not have the option, and we would expect the test to fail and abort. And then we make a new target that has just that one test compiled.
Right. Although I don't know, how easy that's going to be.
It would end up having to be like a whole new binding DC file as a starting point. Because Lucas is able to do it because he wants the whole thing to be recompiled.
Yeah.
If I just want one file, I would need a whole new entry point.
Right.
Which is doable, but is it worthwhile?
Yeah, because it does take a while to compile and run locally.
And then, if this is something that we are waiting for the release for, we have to decide, like
right, yeah.
do we want this in the release? And like, how do we want the tests to be? Like, at what level are the tests good enough for the release?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know? But then this also begs the question, like, we see now that the define flag cannot be set on a per compilation unit. It would have to be done on like the whole project level.
Yep.
And is it okay for it to be like that, like as a requirement, a restriction to the developers that want to use this to say it's on your whole project that your exceptions would be swallowed?
I think that's better than nothing though, still, right?
Yeah, I think it's fair too.
Yeah. Like, because if the argument is that maybe you want it should always be this way and it should be the default, then it's not necessarily a pick and choose.
All right.
Yeah, I think I'd be okay, and I don't know what other people think, but like in terms of getting a release out, to defer the test, like not hold up the release on getting the test figured out. And I guess the question is, like, do we see a downside to running all of our tests with this? Like, it's almost like the bigger risk is that we're not testing with the default behavior, right?
Right.
We are able to, let's say, predict when the error will be swallowed, right? So I'm getting that we better to run the tests when the flag is enabled, so that we can find out that if the flag is affecting another part of the project, right? Since the flag is on the very fundamental part of the exception handling.
Right. So I just, are you suggesting we should run it? We should run it with it defined, the test with it defined, or with them undefined?
Yeah, I mean, we are unable to predict the effect point of the flag, if it will affect other part of the classes. I mean, so that's the point. So we have to, if we are unable to predict it, then we have to run the whole test, although it may slow down our process.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So maybe you're saying we should just run, we should basically do what we did for the other ones and run the test twice.
Yeah, we have to test for the before testers thoroughly.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So I guess, Kevin, in that case, it would be like, let's just clone what we've done for the other ones, and run all the tests. And then, you know, the one test that you're adding should do the right thing with it on and with it off, right?
Right. Okay. So then I'll add the new target with the define. The question then is, am I doing one target? Should it be two targets because we need with exceptions and with C++ exceptions and without C++ exceptions?
Oh,
We do get to a bit too many combinations sometimes.
Yeah, I forgot about that until just now. And those are, and that's important to check here because it's error handling that we're testing.
So in that case, we will have four build. Is it right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to be honest, like running it locally is already pretty long, so I wouldn't want to add 4 more combinations.
Yeah, a total of 4. Yeah, that would be basically doubling the time, going from 2 to 4.
Because it's got to recompile
everything.
Maybe we can enable it on the CI, but not locally. Let's say we have a lot of tests running on node.js core, but we are not running them locally, right? Like say async test and many other checks and debug build. We don't run them locally very frequently, but we have ensured that that test should have been run on CI so that the CI is running for suite, and we can run the light suite on locally.
Yeah, I think that would be good. So we can basically have, maybe make the default still run it all, but then, we could introduce a new target, which would just run the basic. Like maybe it should continue to run the exceptions and enabled and non-enabled, but not run any of the other flavors.
Well, I mean, if we're going to be adding targets, maybe we can go back and revisit the idea of it being
a dedicated target.
A dedicated target for that compilation unit.
Yeah, so, that would be, you're right on that one too. Although I think Legendicast's point was maybe we want to run all the other tests. Although I think in this case, it's like it's only when there's an unhandled exception that it's going to change the behavior, right?
Yeah.
So I think we could probably just run the one new test versus everything.
I believe it's a good idea if we can predict the affect area.
Yeah, it's pretty localized. Like it's if you get an exception and you can't run JavaScript, that's the only time the behavior should be different, right?
That would sound good.
Yeah, can we go to the files changed again? Because I think I had a question on the fix, I think. Yeah, a little up. Yeah, here, when we get, so NAPI is exception pending. The fact that we then have that else on 2411 to always set it to pending exception.
Right, so that's basically saying that else, right?
Does it mean that NAPI is exception pending would either return okay or pending exception? Like, is it possible for is exception pending to return a different value?
Yeah, like NAPI is exception pending.
Because like if that returned, say, general error or something, then the else block triggers. So then you get to 2411, completely overriding it.
We will only get NAPI invalid arg if the EMV argument is a null point or the result point is a null point.
Okay. I mean, is that something that we need to
It's a good point.
consider?
Normally we don't get those value to be null point, right?
Yeah, I think we could look in exception pending, but you're right. The only thing that should mess it up is if that env wasn't.
Right. And I was just using generic error as just an example. I don't know the implementation of is exception pending. Could it return something else too that we just completely override on 2411?
I think maybe what we want to do is add in an or. So basically that, there should be an or status is not equal to nappy okay. Because if we're basically saying if it's okay, if it's okay and we know that the exception is not pending, then we're going to go and do what we did before, right? Otherwise, we know that nappy pending exception is what was returned because the call succeeded and it told us that there was a pending exception. But if that call fails, then we don't know that. We don't know that there's a pending exception, and we should just do what we did before and get whatever error it's going to tell us. So I do think in that if there should be an or. It should basically be if status is not equal to nappy okay, or status is equal to nappy okay and the exception is pending, then we want to, and is not pending, then we want to go and do this regular thing, what we did before.
Okay, so then that would mean that if is exception pending, the status was something else, we would go into this new block that we've
We
added.
should go into, yeah, we'd go into that new block, yep.
And then try to throw.
Which is what we would have done already before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That makes sense. Yeah.
Except that we would then eat that. If it was pending exception, we would then say, it's okay, which is what we wanted to do. If it was something else, we wouldn't return, and we would return whatever error we would have previously.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
No, that's a good catch. And okay, and it does look like you deleted the part that I'd commented on afterwards. So.
Okay, so I'll make that change and then look into making the new target with the single unit. Is that what we decided?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, perfect. Then
Okay,
that's all.
That sounds good. Were there any others that issues that people wanted to call out? See, there's a few more agenda casties, or anything you want to talk about those, or just
maybe we can check out the 976.
Okay.
Yeah. So previously we are writing our tests with the add-on path hard written in the test case. So in this file, we just extracting them to a common test runner so that we can add a new test flavors more easily. Like say, just like Kevin's case, we can
right, like the one we just talked about. So yeah, okay. That seems
also,
like
there are
a very timely idea.
Strange crashes. Just use scrolled up.
Sorry.
And
where do you want
the to-do point. Like say, you can search the to-do point.
Okay, right.
Yeah. I found it very strange that if we are, like say, I have chained all the tests with the promises, so that the test will running one by one, and unless the previous one is already finished, the later one will be run. So then in that case, if we are disabling the async hooks in their destroy callback, we'll get a strange crash on the node call in the callback scope check. So I'm investigating it. So if there is anyone interested, we can, like say, check out the PR and running locally.
Okay, so this one you're You're saying that we should, like, is it ready to land, or is it that there's like?
The PR is ready to land since it's already past the PR. I have added a workaround to it, but you can decide if we can, like say, the issue is already around there with or without the new test runner.
Okay.
So we ultimately will have to investigate the issue.
Okay, but the didn't, like, we didn't, if you didn't have this code, would it cause the problem with the changes versus not
if
before?
we don't change the whole test promises, the test will not crash.
Okay, but we do chain them right today anyway,
Yeah,
or
right.
yeah, okay, so this code won't necessarily be used with the way it normally runs, but it could be if when we add new tests and stuff like that, right?
It's only in the part of async hooks.
I guess what I was trying to understand, like, if we didn't include this, what would happen? Would the tests actually be crashing?
It's crashing in the node.js core. In a environment set immediate. I didn't have time to investigate, but since we don't change any C++ file in the PR, so the issue is already around there.
Right. Right. Okay, but it not in the way it isn't surfaced by the way the tests are currently running, right?
Yeah, right.
There's a follow by resolving and disabling hooks in the destroy callback. So, and this is the destroy callback for async hooks.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are doing them somewhere else. I'm just looking at
We just resolve the promise with a new async stack, like say early independent set interval stack. So it had nothing to do with async hooks.
I see. So it doesn't do it into the destroy. It just will run at some point later. Once it sees destroyed, then it does it. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, now I can see how that. Okay. So does anybody have any concerns with making that change? Like, it seems like a good one to me for sure to have the common runner and make it basically just one place that you need to add it in. So
yeah, we don't have to change every test case if we add new test flavors.
So it's lots of changes, but they're all basically the same change, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no concerns, that definitely I think is good. Any other ones that people want to call out? Let's just see if there's anything that stands out. See anything there? Just take a quick look at Node. This one.
I'm investigating why the CI is still failing.
Okay. That's good, but nothing there. Actually, I'm just going to take out the SPR. Okay, so nothing else seems to be I think so. I guess that takes us to the end of the list. Let me go back and find the list again. Hold on. I think it takes us to the end of the list. I guess the last thing would be worthwhile, Jack, just asking if you're getting all the help, support, if you have any questions or anything that you need help to continue moving forward.
Nothing at the moment, but like I'll be sure to hit you guys up if there's anything.
Okay, yeah, just let us know. So I guess we're at the end. Anything else we should talk about before we close out for today? If not, thanks for everybody's time, and we'll see you in GitHub and next week.